Hey there, horror movie tea sippers.
The following podcast episode will contain spoilers for the movie we are about to review. If you have not seen the movie and do not wish to have anything ruined prematurely, please do not continue to watch or listen until you have seen the movie.
And welcome to the Horror Movie Tea Podcast. Today we are covering Gremlins 2, The New Batch. It's so funny because I don't know what it is about like older sequels, but they always seem to have like a little tagline. But nowadays they're like, oh, it's just, like Insidious 2, or they don't really seem to have taglines behind them anymore.
I mean, they do every now and then, but they do that with the actual like original movies too, so.
Yeah, but we're following the December tradition since this week is Jess's birthday. Yay, happy birthday. Well, happy early birthday because it's coming out on the 1st.
Yeah.
So, yay. But anyways, before we get into the summary, let's grab our cups and talk about tea. So, this time around, I am drinking, it's another Republic of Tea, I went a little crazy, guys, so you're going to hear about this tea company a lot before I drink it up. It's the Super Green Tea Serenity. It's got Japanese matcha, green tea, lavender, and holy basil, or basil. But I know my camera's inverted, but at least you know kind of what the packaging looks like. Well, on my side, it's inverted.
I know.
Yeah. But I'm glad you can see it. But the people looking at the video podcast
I can see it just fine.
But what are you drinking today?
I am trying a new one to me. This is Lipton Terrific Turmeric Herbal Tea. So it's got turmeric, ginger, and orange.
Oh,
it is an herbal tea, so it's caffeine free, which is great because again I'm over caffeinated and exhausted. We're moving again, guys. So if you couldn't tell from the background.
Yeah, this is a continuation of our cluster of recordings. So yeah, we sometimes record episodes out of order.
A little bit.
It's
and
always
just in
confusing.
between sessions, and it's just whatever we can manage at this point.
Yeah, it's
we also just finished eating dinner, so I needed something to help with soothing and aid digestion and just calm, relaxing, nice tea.
Yeah.
So, hopefully this does the trick.
Yes, I hope it does too. But
that'll be good.
Yes. But as always, for our tea sippers out there, brew yourself a cup of tea, sit back, relax, and we hope that you enjoy the review. So Gremlins 2 is... Oh man, I should have pulled up the summary. Okay, but essentially, Gizmo's back at the shop. There's a development company that's trying to... that ends up building over that area because the shop owner passes away. But Gizmo is found by someone who works in a laboratory that just so happens to be in this new building. And then Gizmo's former owner from the previous movie just so happens to work in this building. And he finds Gizmo... And, it seems like, Gizmo's about to be rescued. Everything's going to be good because he knows the rules. But Gizmo, not very good at listening to directions, was walking around. And then he gets dumped with water by the janitor and chaos ensues. I do kind of find it funny that, it's like this whole convoluted story, but essentially, there's gremlins everywhere, and they end up directing them to the main lobby by tricking them that's still nighttime by having like a cover over the large part of the building, and then that ends up not working out, and instead they get zappity zapped, and then the movie ends.
Roll credits.
Nee, 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 nee. So for entertainment, I know for me, both the entertainment and the realism are probably going to be on the shorter side, because this movie is very chaotic to a point where it's kind of hard to wrap your head around. Like, it's so strange because it does have a very focused story, but at the same time, it goes all over the place. Well, I guess in the beginning, it has a focused story, and then after that, it just like kind of falls apart. So for me, I would rate this movie a 7.5. And the reason being is I can't remember what I rated the first one. It's either a 7 or a 7.5, I'm pretty sure. But I did enjoy the first movie a lot better. But this movie is full of references. Like, if you enjoy movie references, like they reference like Phantom of the Opera, Wizard of Oz, Rambo, and that's just like a small fraction of the movies that they reference. So it kind of adds to the fun of the movie. I also like that they showed Gizmo a lot more. I'm sure after the first one they realized, oh, people really like Gizmo. No surprise there. So they wanted to show him off a little bit more. I also find it a little bit interesting, the commentary out on the movie, how it's like, even though this one was released in 1990, and even though that was 30 years ago, we are still facing very, very similar problems, where it's like trying to find that balance between our modern age and not allowing things to become so impersonable that, you're just one of the little chinks in the chain, or the little, but
Like a drone.
huh? A drone,
Like a
yeah,
drone.
yeah, or a robot, a part of the assembly line or whatever. But out of curiosity, because the fiance was giving tours of the building, and she's like, "Oh, you can get his book for 1995," and I immediately was like, "Well, nowadays that's actually a fairly reasonable price." But knowing this movie and how high of a ego the person's supposed to be, I was like, I bet it's actually pretty expensive. And so I looked up how much that is in today's money, and in today's money, that would be worth $41.87. And so I think that having that transition and knowing that it's a pretty expensive book, that kind of helps fall the pieces. It's like, I'm sure maybe some people did think about that, but yeah, he was actually charging a lot for his freaking autobiography. But yeah, overall the movie starts off focused, but then really becomes chaotic. They seem to be a lot more focused later on creating all of these references and jokes rather than the actual gut of the story. And that it makes it feel like it lasts forever. It kind of ironically slows down the movie, even though there's a lot going on. So out of the two Gremlin movies, this one is definitely the weakest. They go kind of overboard with the action and what they have the Gremlins do and things like that. I mean, it is, some of their ideas is interesting, like having like the Gremlin drink the bat one, or the one become more intelligent. That one's by far my favorite.
Yes.
So, so it's like, yes, they did try and make it more interesting, but then they kind of overwhelm you with that because they have the bat one, they have the intelligent one, they have the spider one, they have the one that becomes electrical. It's like you don't need like one or two is fine. You don't need like a whole slew. Oh, and then they have the one that is a female. So it's like they have all of the, and then the super hyper one. Like they have so many gremlins to keep up with. And it's like if you have, it's like you can't oversaturate a movie with too many characters to keep track of that are interesting because if you do, it oversaturates the movie and makes it seem a lot less boring than it actually is just because you're like, I don't know. It's hard for me to put into words, but it's like if you watch any movie where they have a ton of characters, like actual like interesting characters, it's really hard to keep your interest through the whole movie because it's like there's action and then action and action. It's almost like the whole point of a horror movie and what makes a good horror movie is that it starts off slow, brings it up a little bit, and then it slows down again. While this movie, it starts off slow, goes up, and then it just stays. And because it stays, it loses my interest. But yeah, that's my take.
So, I absolutely love the first movie. It's considered a classic, in my opinion, just because I grew up watching it like every year around Christmas time. This one, I actually shockingly didn't see near as often as I did the other one. So I think I saw it like a handful of times growing up, maybe. Just because we didn't have access to it. We wanted to watch the other one, so we ended up getting that one, but this one we didn't really feel the need to. So I didn't have near as heavy a nostalgia glasses as I did on the other one. And it has been a couple of years since I've seen this movie, so I had forgotten a lot of what happened in it. I remembered it being in the building, I remember it being very chaotic, and I remember a few of the gremlins in particular and how they killed them. But I had not quite recalled how much of a shit show this movie is. So I'm giving it a 5.5. Honestly, like, if you haven't seen it already, you could skip it. Like, the first one is really the only one that you need. This one, I feel like it couldn't really decide what it wanted to be. Like, it was insane chaos everywhere. There were references everywhere that a lot of which didn't really make that much sense in context. It was very, very, very 90s. Extreme 90s. Like when the movie starts, it shows the Warner Brothers symbol and has Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck arguing over who's going to be there. So that always bodes well for how a movie's going to go. But it does make fun of itself constantly. And not just like the previous movie and the references and everything and breaking the fourth wall a few times, but also it roasts the rules for the Gremlins, which I do appreciate. I did appreciate that because we asked a lot of the same questions when we watched the first movie. Like, what if you're on a plane and cross into a different time zone? It's midnight somewhere. Or what if it had something stuck in its teeth and it got dislodged after midnight and it ended up swallowing it? Does that count as it eating something separate? Or was it because it was already in its body? Technically, it was in its mouth. Is it still safe? So it's just different things like that they were asking that I do appreciate them at least calling attention to it. Like, yeah, we know these rules are crap, but we're doing it anyway.
Yeah.
And even Billy's like, I don't make the rules. I just know them. I do also have to laugh at some of the things that they put in there, like Christopher Lee as Dr. Catheter. And when he gets a package, he gets all excited, going, must be my malaria. And he's like super excited about getting these horrible diseases and things. And then he's disappointed because he got rabies. He's like, I already have rabies. Like it's a freaking trading card. What are you doing, sir? So there are some humorous points and some points that I appreciate with them calling to attention the crap rules that don't make that much sense, or that it makes a few references that are kind of funny here and there, but others don't really make that much context or sense in context. But I don't know. It's just it doesn't have near the same vibe. I feel like it tries to be a little too funny. Like it knows it's a humorous movie and it just ran with it a little bit too far. The other movie, it was funny and it was ridiculous, but they still had a rather serious tone to it for the most part. Like, there's a real danger with these things. They are killing people. Or at least they were in the first movie. It didn't really seem like there was that much death. There was a little bit of death, but not that much death in the second one. They seemed fairly mild in comparison, just more chaotic. So I feel like they went too far from what it was originally supposed to be. And when they lost sight of that, it just kind of falls apart.
Yeah, and I don't know if you noticed this too, but both movies are also low key. I don't want to go so far as to say racist because I think that they're because like in the beginning of the movie, one of the people trying to get the old guy to sell the store, he is like, "Oh, is that a quote from Bruce Lee or oh crap, I forgot the wise Asian guy that
Miyagi.
no the no, not in this movie. I'm saying like in real life it's like how we have all of like Aristotle and all of these like famous quotes from them. It's that, but it's a guy from ancient China, I believe. Starts with a C, I think.
Confucius.
Thank you. Oh my god. Okay, sorry guys.
Give me some context. I can get it, I promise.
But yeah, he is like, oh, is that quote from Confucius or Bruce Lee? And like, come on, dude. But you know, that I could at least partially excuse because I'm like, okay, maybe they're just trying to make the guy come out as like an extra douchebag. But then later they have this tourist guy that happens to be Asian that's just like obnoxiously taking pictures of everything and filming everything. I'm like, that's a stereotype that we have. So I'm just like, the fact that, it's one thing if you're trying to make a character to be a douchebag, but the fact that they added the secondary, like a larger part character in the film, but then they're also like really like his personality is the fact that he's Asian and he takes pictures or he's a cameraman or whatever. I'm like, those are things that probably wouldn't be accepted today, and I would say are fairly inappropriate because it's like you kind of lose it's like they're more the stereotype than an actual like individualized character at that point.
Yeah.
But I am sad that they had the old man die because it's just like, oh, from the first movie, the shop owner.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
There
yeah,
were a few different older gentlemen, so I
yeah.
was
That's fair.
confused
That's
for a
fair. My
moment.
my
I was like,
apologies.
which one?
The shop owner. I was sad that
Yeah.
he passed away.
Yes, but at the same time, he was ancient, so I kind of see how that could be fairly accurate.
Yeah, I know. But I want to bring that up to make note. It's like it's so interesting even watching movies that aren't that much older, and how different we represent different ethnicities and cultures nowadays compared to the way that we used to. So just something that I thought was kind of interesting to make note of.
Yeah.
But yeah. Shall we move on to realism?
Yes.
So, oh, oh man. So for realism, I only have 1 point because it was really hard for me to think on, oh, is it good?
I'm gonna pause your realism for a moment. I just tried the tea.
Yeah.
The orange is really, really good with this.
Ooh. Yeah, whenever you said turmeric and orange, I'm like, I've never heard of that flavor combination before, but it sounds like it'd be tasty.
It works. Like it mellows out the turmeric a little bit, but you still get that slight zing of the orange.
Oh.
So it's like a sweet orange almost. So it's that slight tang of the citrus, but it's still sweet. And then you still kind of taste the turmeric, but it's a lot more mild. It's turmeric is usually very spicy,
Yeah.
especially with ginger.
Yeah.
And you don't get like punched in the taste buds with it. In this one, it's mellowed out and it really works well together.
I'll have to remember. So
This is
is
good.
Lipton, and what was the name of it?
Mhm.
After you take a sip?
I had to have more. Lipton Terrific Turmeric Herbal Tea.
Ooh.
So here's.
You sip right. There we go.
There we go.
Oh, yeah.
If
Okay.
it will focus ever.
It won't. It's a fixed focus camera.
Well, I kind of sort of got it, but
Yeah.
it's
Yes.
lots of
Okay.
flowers and pretty.
That's cool. Yeah, I'll have to take a look.
Yeah.
But anyways, so for realism, I definitely can say that I would rate this a 2. Very unrealistic. I mean, come on, it's Gremlins. Like, Gremlins is very much an exaggeration of the real world, where it's like, yes, they're talking about the modern age, and there is some level of commentary to it, but it's also an exaggeration of our world. But the main thing that I was like, okay, that's not really realistic, is just, of course, the concept of gremlins and like how they reproduce and stuff. I mean, it's like, yes, the movie kind of like makes fun of that and it doesn't make sense, but just just this movie really isn't very realistic, like how they end up killing the gremlins, and it's just, but at the same time, this is also what makes the movie fun. So it's not really a movie that, because it's unrealistic, I'm like, oh, this took away from the entertainment. I'm like, no, it's Gremlins. I'm expecting it to be exaggerated. I'm expecting to see these ridiculous creatures and like the fact that they do have some level of intelligence and stuff like that. So it's like, at least for me personally, it doesn't take away from the entertainment factor. But yeah, I keep having hiccups. I'm like, stop it. But what do you rate the movie?
So I set aside the fact that it's Gremlins, and along with it, I set aside the rules for the Gremlins because they established that before. In the first movie and again in this one, they did remind everyone what the rules were. But I give it a 1.
Holy crap.
Because even disregarding that, the show just takes a swan dive off the Empire State Building with realism. For one, Gizmo in the first movie was far more intelligent, and he tried, for the most part, it seemed to actively avoid certain things like bright light or water if he could help it. He only got wet because someone else knocked something over onto him when he wasn't paying that much attention. He just happened to be in that area. So for him to, one, get out of the drawer when he knows how important it is to stay there, and then two, when he sees the spray of water, he takes forever to move. And then he moves to like the worst possible place. No! It just doesn't make that much sense. And again, I know movies got a movie. I know that this has to be a thing that happens at some point, but you can do it in a more clever way. He could have still been in the drawer and someone was walking by and tripped or something and spilled water and it happened to splash into the drawer. There are holes all in the front of that drawer. Or if he had partially opened it like he did before and it spilled and splashed onto him, that would have worked too. Or heck, if he had stayed in the drawer and the janitor was still messing with the water fountain and it sprayed into the drawer, I still would have accepted that instead. It just didn't make that much sense. It's like they're rewriting the character completely. Then, when chaos is starting to ensue, it takes entirely too long for any one of them to think, hey, maybe we should pull the fire alarm to get people out. And you only see one dang fire alarm in the entire freaking building, and it was in that one scene where they finally decided, oh, you know what? I should probably do the thing. Which is interesting to me, and I'm pretty sure breaks so many different regulations for fire control. But okay. Whatever. I don't appreciate, though, that after Kate finally has the stroke of genius and pulls the fire alarm, she thinks it's a good idea, with all the tech issues going on, and gremlins she has no idea where, but she knows there are multiple of, thinks, you know what? I'm gonna get on an elevator. Mm-mm. No. No. And then she's like, elevator stop, and it actually listens. Sound alarm. In a really cool, confident, okay, I've gotten it to stop, everything will be fine now. Because they definitely won't mess with the controls at all. And someone will definitely be along to rescue me in just a moment. Great. Good job. I also find it interesting how they have a whole team of people, a whole room and a whole team of people looking for other employees that are taking breaks when they should not be because they are supposed to be perfect little drones and not have any human needs whatsoever. God forbid someone has to pee. But they can't figure out or notice that Billy, the main character, sneaks into a genetics research lab and steals a whole ass creature from said lab and opens other cages and then goes back to his desk with said creature. But this is fine. Also, as an artist, there's no reason for him to have ever gone anywhere near the genetics research lab to fix the copy machine, as he claimed to be there to do. So they'll watch the random janitor dude
take an unauthorized break. But they don't give a crap about an artist leaving his desk to go somewhere he has no business going anywhere near to fix something he doesn't even use, which is not his job to do, and steals a whole creature. But okay. They also don't notice that gremlins are there until one of them pops through the console and attacks one. But okay. I guess movie's got a movie. And that, I guess, could possibly be a thing that happens. But what won't happen is the freaking light everywhere in that room, the bright lights everywhere, and the gremlin is completely unaffected. This whole movie, they're completely inconsistent with the light weakness. They even make a point at one part of the movie in the genetics lab where they inject the serum into the bat one to give him resistance to light to make sure that he can fly during the day. And yet they have all these lights everywhere that are going on and off. They have fire every now and then. They have electric one going everywhere, which would be very, very bright. And yet none of them are affected by it, except at random times. And only when convenient. Pick one. Either they're allergic to light or they're not. Even the first movie was more consistent with it. And that's saying something. So I also want to know what happened to the electric gremlin. It's not a thing that would happen anyway. Regardless. You can't inject anything with some kind of electrode type serum and make it magically be able to generate electricity. That's not how any of this works, first off. And even if it was, if you inject it into something, it's not going to magically turn into an energy being. Like it freaking ascended into the next plane of existence. So when they use it, even if it's a thing, when they use it to kill the other gremlins by electrocution, zappy zap, where does it go? Because it did that to other things, other people, and it just went into a socket somewhere, or the phone system, or wherever it wanted. And it just continued on going about its business. So, how do you destroy that one? And where did it go after you used it to zap the others?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So,
And then they even showed the female gremlin still alive after, too. So it's like, what happens with that?
yeah. It sounded like they were stuck on one of the uppermost floors, and she wasn't down with the others because she was busy with someone else. Which is interesting because if they reproduce by water, then what was she even doing
Yeah.
with the dude? But okay.
That is a good point.
We're just gonna leave that there. I don't think I want to touch that one.
But yeah, it's like the light inconsistencies. I didn't even think about that until you mentioned it. And also, I'm pretty sure this is not by Steven Spielberg.
I don't think so. I could look it up real quick, but I don't think it was.
But if it's not, I think that does help explain why the movie is so chaotic and why it just kind of goes off the deep end. Like, it's a fun...
Yeah, it was someone else. It was It was Chuck Jones who was heavy into Warner Brothers and Joe Dante.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was different writers too. But y'all missed the whole point of the first movie. Just saying.
I think they missed the whole point of like making a movie in general.
Yes.
Like,
Stick to cartoons.
I know we're, and that explains why there were so many freaking references. Yeah. Yeah. But, I know we're ripping on the movie, but I will say that, at least for me personally, this is a movie that I would enjoy having on in the background while I'm doing stuff. It's entertaining enough that it's not like, oh, if someone wants to watch Gremlin 2, I'm like, oh, it's a terrible movie, I don't want to watch it. And like the reason why I rated it 7.5 is because I know Jeepers Creepers 2 I had rated a 7, and whenever I was comparing the two, I'm like, at least to me, Gremlins 2 is more entertaining than Jeepers Creepers 2. Now, Jeepers Creepers 2 is more focused, but Gremlins 2, like, I had a lot more, like, laugh moments, and, I don't know, overall, I just was a little slightly more engaged and interested than with the Jeepers Creepers 2. So, but I mean, overall, like it's the worst part of it is the fact that it's so unfocused, but it's not like a terrible, god awful movie. It's just compared to the original. It's like if you had to choose one or the other, just definitely Gremlins, the first one.
Yeah. The first one did have chaos, but it was controlled chaos. It was chaos with a purpose.
Exactly.
This one, it was just chaos for the sake of chaos.
Yeah, it's just like a Warner Brothers cartoon where it's like all of this like chaos that's just like, what the heck am I watching? So
Well, I mean, even their cartoons made sense. The problem, I
that's fair.
think, is the time frame, because most cartoons are short snippets. They're like half an hour max, but they tell a story in that amount of time. If you watch this movie, they really kind of lose it in the middle, especially.
Yeah.
But in the end, they start to bring back the focus and taper back into, okay, this was the main storyline in this bundle of crazy. Let's pick that out and continue on here and finish it up with this.
Yeah, and the movie, it was an hour and 45 minutes almost exactly. And I think it would have done the movie justice if they had lowered it to either an hour and 30 minutes or maybe an hour and 25 minutes,
Yeah.
even an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah, I feel like they didn't need certain things like the scene with his immediate boss coming on to him and
Yeah, that
wanting to
was
climb
weird.
the corporate ladder that way and
That was really
all,
weird.
or the just the different scenes of them wreaking chaos before they tried to do anything. So there were just certain things here and there that they could have cut and it would have made a bit more sense. Also, the part in the middle where they break the fourth wall and they try to make it seem like you're in a movie theater and they go out and they get Hulk Hogan as a cameo
That was kind of funny,
to
though.
tell the gremlins to stop and to continue with the actual movie. Like, we didn't need that. That was just weird and made no sense. I feel like it was the only thing that Hulk Hogan probably would have consented to as a cameo. So,
Yeah, though, to be fair, like, if there were some bits that needed to be cut out, I'd be okay leaving that one in. Versus, like, whenever it's focusing more on the gremlins, like, the majority of people have left the building. Like, I feel like a lot of that could have been cut out.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, they could have shortened that for sure, but I still would have liked for them to have cut that middle bit out.
yeah, it's such a strange movie because like the general idea of it wasn't too terrible. Like it could have been a good movie, but I think it really is all of these extra comedy bits and then all of these little nitpick like stories that really make the movie kind of messy. And it's kind of funny how to think that they just need to edit out just a couple of scenes and the movie would already be dramatically improved.
Yeah. So, just to wrap it up, guys, first one was a heck of a lot better. This is more a background movie while you're cleaning up the kitchen or
Yeah.
or making Christmas decorations or putting up the tree or whatever, just one that you don't necessarily have to pay attention to.
Yes, and let us know what you thought of the movie. And if you would like to keep up to date with our content, you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and most places where you can listen to podcasts.
Yes. And if you'd like to support the podcast, please subscribe, like, and share our content. We also have a Teespring if you'd like to support us monetarily. And you can find the sites mentioned linked down below. But until the next time, guys, stay safe and stay spoopy.
Bye.